Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Marketing Natives. Today we have a special guest, Derk Wadas of Rosenthal and Wadas, a local law firm here in Collin County. We're going to cover the coronavirus, law in Collin County, running, and growing your business. Enjoy.
This is the Marketing Natives, providing actionable ways to grow, improve, and succeed in your business. And now, your hosts, Christian and Aaron.
All right, guys, so we are back, and this is going to be one of those special episodes. And actually, Derk may or may not know this, but we're doing something new with our podcast where we're doing it more as a video. So there's going to be hopefully some cool content from this. But Derk, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Awesome. So just generally starting off, because there's going to be a little bit of an intro. People are going to know a little bit about you, but in your own words, tell us a little bit about your business and your law office.
Sure. Rosenthal and Wadas has been in McKinney for about 10 years now. We've grown from 3 lawyers and a receptionist. We now have we're up to 8 lawyers and 5 full-time staff and 2 more part-time staff. And I think we are the largest law firm in Collin County that are doing mostly defense work, criminal defense work.
Awesome.
So that's us. We're in McKinney.
And I was going to say, I did do some research, and that's what the Google says too, is that you guys are the largest for criminal defense anyway. So,
yeah.
And I have some interesting questions in here for a second, but I guess whenever we're talking about criminal defense, can you let's just assume that some of these people don't understand what all that would entail, or what that looks like for people. So criminal defense to me is it law and order, or not Law and Order? Explain this to us, and not the theatrical or the Hollywood version.
Sure. You mean in terms of the type of things we're seeing and dealing with on a day-to-day basis? I mean, it largely we're here in the suburbs. I would say to you that what we are seeing is it ranges from, an 18-year-old gets a citation for having a bottle of beer. And then on the far other end of the spectrum, at any given time, we will have a pending murder case, complex federal conspiracies. But I would say what I might call the food groups, in the 4 food groups here in the suburbs, which is largely our client base, you're going to see retail type thefts, driving while intoxicated cases, assaults of all manner and variety, and to a lesser extent, anymore, possession of marijuana cases or possession of a controlled substance cases. Possession of marijuana cases are almost on their way out.
Really?
Yeah, they really are. Now, it's obviously still illegal in the state of Texas, but I don't believe the DA's office in Collin County is filing those cases right now, though I think people are still getting arrested, but I don't know that the cases are being filed. Anyway, so that's a summary.
Interesting. Yeah. I didn't know if you had something for that. But so you can basically, what you're telling me is that you could go around and you'll get arrested for smoke. I just think it's very interesting at this point, because you could go around in Colorado and have weed and you can be completely fine. But here you could drive around, get arrested, but you still have a criminal, you aren't tried basically.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly wouldn't encourage it if anybody's watching or listening, because you are going to have a very unpleasant evening. Yeah, largely given an amendment to the law that took place in June of 2019, which now requires that there be a specified THC level proven in court. A lot of large district attorney's offices in the big counties are simply not filing the cases. Dallas, Tarrant, certainly, Houston, Austin, these places, they're not filing the marijuana cases anymore. So they just sort of, unless the DA formally charges you, you just never get charged.
Really?
Yeah.
So I guess we'll not go on the marijuana route, because I think that gets into more of legislation. But do you feel like that's since you've been doing law for 10 years, or obviously more than 10 years, just your own law for 10 years, but you've seen, I don't know, how many years have you been practicing? So I just have a good
since 98.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just a
22,
few years.
22. Yeah.
Just a few years. So
it's gone quick. Yeah.
That being said, has that has this changed, or do you feel like legislation would potentially change in Texas? Have we seen anything like this before, where people just weren't being tried?
Are you sort of asking me to anticipate, will marijuana become legal in Texas? If that's the question.
Well, I don't think that you would know because it's like legislation, but like it seems like a law usually, or like maybe it's not tried as much and then something would pass through it. I don't know. We have to wait for the voters, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I feel like the practical outcomes in misdemeanor marijuana cases, and let me be clear, I'm talking about misdemeanor cases. If you get arrested with a felony amount or any sort of a THC oil, well, those are felonies, and they're going to figure a way to get it in front of a lab to test it. But misdemeanor marijuana cases, I would say to you that the practical outcomes in these cases, at least in the larger counties, is actually ahead of the law.
Really?
In my view, meaning people aren't suffering a legal consequence often anymore. And even though it is on the books as illegal, and you will be arrested on the spot, it's, I feel like the trend is toward legalization nationwide. And what we're seeing is it's still illegal, but that people aren't getting convicted as much as they used to for it.
Okay.
For
So
sure.
without me asking a good question, you answered what I was trying to leaning towards, which was like,
Sure.
Is the law, or like, is this ahead of the law, basically? Like, are humans trending towards that? Because it takes a while to make something a law or not a law. Or...
Sure. I mean, in my view, on the state level, that's where this is headed. I think Texas, honestly, will be one of the last places to legalize it. But I mean, once you reach more than 50% of the population that feels that it should be recreationally legal, I mean, I feel like it's a matter of time. I think in my lifetime, in your lifetime, it's going to be for most states. The federal law is a totally different kettle of fish. But as a state law matter, you're seeing this patchwork around the country of outright legalization to outright criminalization. And I think ultimately we're going to see all states do that eventually. But
I want to go back to kind of like where you started, right?
Sure.
You said back in '98 is when you actually, started. How and why did you get involved with, wanting to become a lawyer?
Sure. I didn't think about it at all until college. I mean, I was probably 21 years old and just sparked an interest, took a constitutional law class in college and said, this is fascinating, and told my parents, and they just couldn't even believe it. And they were so happy to hear I probably wouldn't be living in the basement if I became a lawyer. So no, it has, even to this day, 22 years later, I'm still interested in the law itself. Not so much the facts, but the law has always been very interesting to me. So yeah, I guess it just sort of came to me in college. Yeah.
That one class is the one that sparked.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Interesting.
Professor Auerbach. Yeah.
That's what I was getting ready to ask you. Do you remember the teacher too? Because that's usually like the thing that sparks is like, oh yeah, I remember that teacher in that class.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And so you're not from around here, so you're from like the Northeast area, right?
Yeah, I grew up in PA.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know what PA is, Pennsylvania, but I'm just kidding. No, so you moved down to Dallas. You obviously didn't start your law firm right as soon as you moved here. So what did you do when you got to Dallas?
So, we moved here in 2004. I spent 5 years as a criminal prosecutor in Vermont on the other side of the bar.
Okay.
Prosecuting crimes, and then 2 more here. I was a Collin County assistant district attorney, and then started a law firm, started a solo practice here 2005 or 2006. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So how did you meet your now business partner?
Jeremy and I were, Jeremy Rosenthal is my business partner, my law partner. He and I were both assistant district attorneys in Collin County at the same time, and then both members of the defense bar at the same time. So
interesting. And so you, like you said, you were on the other side here, and now you're jumping to you're like, hey, some of these cases like that we're trying, these people seem unjust, so that's why you did it, or what's the?
It's really the same law.
Okay.
It's just, as a lawyer, I'm advocating for a position. And, depending on who the client is what the position is. I think for me, I'm a third generation person who's a small business owner, going back to my granddad in the 50s. And so it always felt like the arc of my life and the arc of my career would be being in business for myself. I never envisioned myself as a career government lawyer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's actually a question. I'm curious. So what was your granddad doing then?
So my grandfather was, I guess, back in the day, right after World War II, he was a hearing aid salesman. Okay. And then his son, my dad, became an audiologist, a PhD audiologist. And so was my sister. And so that's all I've ever known growing up was ears and hearing and that sort of thing. But, the science just didn't really appeal to me. So I took another route. So.
Right. Took that class. The different class for that. Interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I didn't know that. So yeah, I think it's I think probably half the people that we talk to, it's some kind of like family, like they grew up with it, like their parents or something. So you've seen it. I would say like, yeah, half of our guests. Otherwise, it's more of like they were forced into it, or not forced into it, but like some people were like, yeah, I had to leave corporate America. I didn't want to do that. And then the other half are like, yeah, my parents kind of put me down this path, or I've just seen them over and over again, like doing their business.
Yeah. No, I could see that. No, nothing like that. But, and again, neither of my kids has expressed an interest in being a lawyer. So,
well, not a lawyer. Yeah. But I mean,
what about like owning their own business though?
I'm not sure where that will head. Yeah.
Oh, Mitch,
I have a senior in high school right now. So
yeah, I was going to say, he seems very entrepreneurial with a lot of his ideas.
Yeah. You
should tell them, whatever story you'd like. I mean, he has a couple of entrepreneurial ventures, but I was just curious.
Aaron's been privy to many of them. Let's see. When he was probably about 10, he wanted to extract scorpion venom.
Yeah,
which apparently there's a market for that. Yeah, and it's quite lucrative.
Yeah, because it's
dangerous, I suppose. But so no, his mother vetoed the idea of having live scorpions up in his bedroom.
Wow.
He's a world-renowned, what's that thing he would build over and over?
The little flame thing?
The flamethrower builder. Yeah.
I have a video somewhere on my phone of like a 15 or 20 foot flame. Like, it is crazy. Like, so much so that it caught on fire and we had to throw it in the pool to make sure that it just didn't burn something.
Yeah, his middle school years, he spent most of his time in the garage building things, all of which could harm someone. So he's kind of grown up and moved on from that, thankfully.
That's good.
Especially for his mom's sake.
Yeah. Stressing out.
That's right. Aaron was there the day it didn't really exactly work out and we threw it in the pool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I forgot about that.
So just kind of talking about the family side, your wife is also a lawyer as well.
Yes.
And she is part of the business with you? Or
no, she works for the Social Security Administration.
Okay.
Before that, she was an assistant attorney general for the state of Texas. So yeah, she's always, she's never been in private practice like me. Yeah.
No. Yeah. Is she the person you want to see in the Social Security part or not see?
You would never see her. She writes legal opinions all day. So her paper, it's entirely reading and writing. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's it.
So not the trials, not the
nothing,
like
no courts, nothing like that. Yep, just legal opinions.
What's a typical day for you?
Court in the morning.
Okay.
Meeting with existing clients or potential new clients in the afternoon, unless I am in some sort of a contested hearing or a jury trial or a bench trial, in which case it just depends. I mean, I have been in trials that have taken 3 weeks or more. Because of the complexity of the case and the evidence, and if something like that happens, then everything else just kind of gets shuffled along. But the average day is just going to court in the morning and then afternoon in the office. Yeah.
What time does court? So what time is court then?
Well, it's supposed to start at 8:30. It usually does, but I'm glad you asked me that in case anybody's listening to. Yeah, everything is set at 8:30.
Okay.
So if you're going to court on the criminal docket and you have 8 clients, well, guess what? They're all set at 8:30. There's only one of me. And so what we have is a rolling docket and meaning it's not a situation. Obviously a lawyer cannot be in 8 places at once. You just sort of make the rounds and get to everyone as quick as you can and try to let everybody know in advance the way it works. So yeah, it's not like a, they're just calling your name or something like that. So yeah,
you guys mainly practice. I mean, your office is in McKinney, Texas, and that's Collin County.
Yeah.
Do you ever take cases for Dallas County, or how does
Dallas and Denton, occasionally Tarrant County? I would say most of my work here, 90% of my cases are in Collin County.
So people are doing bad stuff in Collin County.
Yeah, there's enough. Well, I'll put it this way. There's 8 of us.
Yeah.
We're our full-time lawyers doing this work. And then a big chunk of it is also the federal stuff. The federal stuff can be very interesting. It's a different type of practice. It's usually a very different type of client than you might get, here in the suburbs.
What does that mean?
It's meaning, the state courts, the district attorney's office, they file cases that are brought to them by the local police agencies. The federal government picks and chooses what it wants to prosecute. It will only do so in very large, significant cases that they feel are very strong. And so those are the situations where you have usually multi-defendant, mostly conspiracies, either, white collar financial fraud or drug conspiracies or some other sort of situation where there's multiple people, lots of evidence, lengthy investigations, as opposed to just someone took shoes from Kohls or something. You know what I mean? Like, something like that. Yeah.
Is taking shoes from Kohls just not for me, but for those who are listening? If you or Christian, I don't know. But if you take shoes,
going with this,
if you take shoes from Kohls, is that considered a misdemeanor or a felony?
Well, I mean, unless they are extremely expensive, it should be a misdemeanor.
So it's by the price.
It's by the price. An alleged value between $100 and $750 is a Class B misdemeanor. $750 to $2,500 is a Class A misdemeanor. Are there shoes at Kohls worth more than that? I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, you can. I mean, you can.
They're probably at a discount. It's like
you can steal a felony amount of things from Kohls very quickly, but it's got to be more than one pair of shoes.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I was trying
the funny thing is, like, Kohls is like one of those places where they actually have security, where their products don't equate to having as a security person.
Christian, you're right. I mean, I agree, and frankly, I think every third person in there is actually works for the store and is looking at you, whether you know it or not. But it is almost an inside joke in our office anyway, in our business. Like, that is Kohls constantly. I don't know why Kohls. Almost not everyone or almost everyone, but I see a lot of theft cases from Kohls.
Huh.
Maybe
that's
Ross
why they have
Dillard's,
those guys.
Kohls.
Maybe that's why they have those guys there, is because they're like, hey, look, we lost $500 million last year because people steal stuff.
It has really changed the way I view other customers in Kohls. From
so you're walking around just like making sure.
I assume if somebody's in the same aisle as me twice, that's got to be an employee of Kohls.
It's like we should call a lawyer, which actually is a good question. Like, when should somebody call a defense attorney?
The obvious one is, if you get arrested, right?
Okay.
You have a actual problem.
Okay.
Another time is if you get the police calling you on the phone to come in for an interview, or they want to talk to you, or any situation like that, should be a pretty glaring yellow light that you may have a legal problem.
So is the stuff that they show, see, I'm going back to the only thing that I've never been into, a courtroom, or luckily behind the other side of the table where somebody's investigating.
Sure. Well, you're young.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So give me 5 years, something may come up. I want to do, but I don't know. But like, so if I say there and you're investigating me at this point and I'm like, nope, I need to see my lawyer, they just have to stop everything. Is that legitimate? They really?
Yeah. If you, two different things. If you say, I invoke my right to remain silent. Okay. They are entitled. This isn't legal advice, but since we're talking law, the police are entitled to, they've got to respect that, but then they are entitled to come back to you and say, okay, look, let's talk. What they can come back and try to get you to talk again. That's perfectly ethical. It's perfectly lawful. If, on the other hand, if you invoke the right to counsel and you say, I don't want to talk to you, I want to talk to my lawyer, or I am not speaking to you till I have a lawyer present. You've seen any of that on TV if you watch TV. That is, if you make an unequivocal request for a lawyer, that is supposed to shut the process down. In other words, the police understand, they're trained in the academy. That is, you can't go back at that point and try to talk the suspect out of it. That just stops it.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
That will stop.
Interesting. Well, see, good to know.
But it can't be ambiguous. Can't be. Do I need a lawyer? That won't do it.
Oh, it's got to be a firm statement that yes.
Exactly.
So you can't ask them and say like, hey, is it better for me to ask for a lawyer now or
Right.
not? Like, yeah.
They can keep right on going in that situation.
Okay.
Sure.
So since you can't necessarily give legal advice, I was just that was stating the law at that point. So if I since we're on a podcast, I'm curious now. If I gave you $1, would you is it like $5 to like be somebody's lawyer or whatever?
If as long as we agree that I'm your lawyer, then I'm your lawyer. It doesn't take any money at all.
Oh,
yeah.
Dang, see?
But it's situational. Like I'm just like I'm Aaron Pearson's lawyer forever.
I was getting ready to tell Jack, make sure to cut this clip because I need this for the future. And Derk's always going to
you can call me anytime. The phones are answered 24/7. So.
Well, are you going to give out your cell phone later or no? I'm just kidding.
Find yours.
What did you say?
I said, let me find yours, in fact.
Yeah. What's whenever somebody finds out you're a lawyer, because I guess whenever somebody finds out like we're a marketer, like a marketing agency, they first go into like, hey, so how do I get these Facebook ads to work? Or if we find out somebody's like something else, they're like, their very first question is something that's related to the industry. When somebody finds out you're a lawyer and you just happen to tell them like at wherever at Target or something, what's the first question or the most common question that people ask you?
One or two things, and it's fine. It's no big deal. We're all, like you said, in your business, they ask you certain things right away that, I often have someone who will present me with a complex factual scenario and want a legal opinion. And I'm very polite about it. I think I am, but sometimes it's like, well, that would take me, I would have to sit and think that through for about 3 hours and then research the law and then give you a written opinion about the applicability of the law to the facts here. So, I mean, I just, I can't do that. The other thing is that they'll ask me to like tell them some crazy story or, something like that. So anyway, it's fine. It's human nature. I'm sure I do the same thing to people that are not lawyers. I'm sure I do the same thing when I bump into somebody who has a different job than me. So I'm not criticizing, but yeah, since you asked, that's exactly what happens every time, especially at the courthouse.
Oh, really?
Oh.
You like bump into somebody, hey, I saw you're a lawyer. Like, I'm about to go into court and represent myself. I'm just curious, like, what are my odds here?
Yeah.
That happens.
Oh, all the time. Stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's impossible to answer that question. Like,
It's like, well, you got a 50-50 shot. Let's go.
Especially since lawyers are liable for their legal advice. I can't just kind of give it on the fly to a stranger, But that guy's wrong,
Yeah. I was going to say, I don't want to know how much your liability insurance is because I'm sure it's quite a bit.
Yeah.
We just switched to insurance, so it's on top of my mind right now. I'm like, oh, there's like a roofing company, just as a complete side tangent. I was like, oh yeah, ours is, I can't remember exactly what it was, but theirs was like, I don't know, $100,000 or something like that per year. I'm like, oh, that's a lot of money to make sure that you don't like destroy somebody's roof. And I don't know, to me, that's a lot of money for insurance. I'm sure yours is professional, so it's like a whole different level too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's up there. Yeah. At least I'm not an anesthesiologist or something like.
Gosh. Yeah, they make a lot of money, but they can be sued like crazy.
Right.
You talked about researching the law. Is usually, when you watch shows and stuff, they always have all these tons and tons of books and I'm guessing cases and things like that.
Yeah.
Do you still use that, or is it more all online? Where
it's online. I mean, it's the same thing. Like usually, you're looking at, like for example, in Texas, you'd be looking at those law-looking books. They're the Southwest Reporter, and all it is a compilation of written appeals court decisions, one after the other, and then they move on to the next volume. Now it's all online. It's all at our fingertips. It's the same product, but you do not need giant libraries of books anymore. So if you're seeing those now, they're mostly for show.
Gotcha. Yeah. So they can search and literally say like, oh, what was this case? And like it's like kind of like not a Google, but like you can actually search within a document of saying,
that's actually not a bad way to put it. It's like Google, and you can have it at your fingertips now instead of having to go to the library and look for it.
And you were in 98. Obviously there was not that. You did have to use the book. So has that?
What do you prefer? What do you?
Oh, it's so much better now.
Yeah.
It's incredible because in the old days you would have to read the case and you'd say, okay, this is a statement of law. Oh, but is it still a valid statement of law? And then you would have to go to other books to find out if a subsequent case overruled the case you read, and you'd have 92 books on the table.
Wow.
And now you'd read the case and you can click on a little button see what new cases said about it. So it's, what used to take hours and hours and hours doesn't take nearly as much time anymore. So, yeah.
How has, I guess that's one part of technology that has changed your business. Is there anything else technology wise that has changed anything?
That's the big one, to be honest with you, because in this, I don't know what it's like for y'all in your business, but I mean, mine is always going to be, I'm never going to be able to work from Montana, right? I've got to be at the courthouse. I've got to visit clients. I've got to meet with human beings face to face. So other than the speed up of the technology with regard to legal research, I think everything else is just like they did it in the 70s. You just, you need a conference room. You need face-to-face contact. You need to be here. So
like I've seen it or like heard of it anyway. I don't know if it's necessarily true, but like where a judge will come in and he'll literally be like virtual and can hear a case or be presented a case and then make a ruling from there. Like does that happen?
In here in Collin County, the magistration, as we call it, if you're arrested, they bring you before a judge on video. Here's what you've been charged with. I'm setting the bond at X dollars, these sorts of things. But I haven't seen judges on video here in the Collin County District or County Courts at Law. They're all sitting there in person. Now, in the federal district courts, which, the Eastern District of Texas goes from Sherman to the border of Louisiana to Beaumont. So occasionally one of, the Eastern District of Texas, the federal judges will appear by video, but that's the only thing I've seen there.
Right. Just logistically almost impossible.
It's impossible. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. There was a question that I was going to ask you that was more focused on like the questions that you would get asked, but more so I want to get all of these trivial questions that people are probably thinking of because I wanted to ask them because I'm sure that's one of the questions people ask and we can get back to other stuff. But so of the law shows online, I'm assuming you've probably seen some, but you probably don't watch because you're like, I want to do something else with my life besides just talk about law all day.
Yeah.
But are there any shows out there that are actually somewhat accurate? Because we all know that TV is obviously, I don't know, they make it so that they can sell it. So is there anything that's out there that you're like, oh, Suits is close to it or Law and Order is close to it? Like, is there anything that's like somewhat accurate to?
I would need to think on that one. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this to you before, but I really hate those lawyer shows. I mean, I can't watch them. Then I don't like any shows that are about anybody's job. I don't care what, I don't know, doctors,
so
whatever
you don't like
it
The
is.
Office?
I don't, well, I mean, they're in an office, but
they have a job. Okay. They have a job.
So no, I off the top of my head, I can't think of any. Because I pretty much just, if I see some guy in a courtroom, I'm like turning the channel as fast as I can,
Is Rebecca the same way? So your wife, is she the same way too?
She kind of is. Like neither of us watch any kind of legal dramas or movie. I've never seen any of these Grisham movies or,
What about documentaries though?
Yeah.
No?
I'm not really a documentary guy,
What about, we talked about this before, the Ted Bundy stuff. So like that's.
Yeah, I did watch that one. That was great.
Yeah. Because I was just curious, like, or there's one on Netflix that's like How to Catch a Murder or something like that. Or we watched part of it too. What was the name of it? Life of a Murder. I don't know. But it was kind of interesting. So yeah, maybe that's a question for everybody who's out here who's a lawyer listening to this. Do you watch Law and Order? Do you watch those shows, or do you try to stay away from them as much as possible?
Yeah,
it's kind of curious because with I guess for us in our industry, it's like it's kind of it's pretty accurate, I guess, or a lot of it could be accurate to an extent. Like there's a show called Silicon Valley that's kind of like
that's exactly what I was thinking of.
Like tech startups and stuff like that. Right. It's like that's real. Like
is it?
Yeah. I mean,
it's some of the situations were real.
Well,
others were obviously
TV, right.
Some of it was definitely out there, but it's like venture capitalists and people working at one desk and getting enough food and staying up too late and working and just literally in front of their computers for 24 hours and trying not to break something, building their own servers. Like all of that's like, other than their own experience, it's pretty accurate. So that's why I was curious.
That's cool. No,
Have you seen Silicon Valley?
I've seen some of that. Yeah.
It's pretty good. We stopped watching. Is that? Oh, that's why you named your dog Piper. So everybody, just so you know, Christian has a dog named Piper, and I think he did it from Pied Piper.
It could be. Yeah, I forgot about that. The name of the startup for Silicon Valley was Pied Piper. Interesting. I want to ask. You said you guys have 8 lawyers in your team and company.
Sure.
What do you think you attribute that success, that growth of your business?
Good question. I'd like to think that it is delivering good results for people day in and day out. I mean, I guess I'm just, talking up the praises of our business, but I mean that. I mean, we've been in business for 10 years doing this as Rosenthal and Wadas. And I'd like to think, when we've been able to generate more and more clients that have justified bringing on more and more lawyers, because everybody there cares about the clients, cares about what we're doing, and just gets it done. I think that a lot of our business comes from referrals, and that's really the best source. I mean, you can advertise all day, but a personal referral is really what gets it done. So I'd like to think that's why. Yeah.
So I guess in your case, it's a little bit different. So if somebody's referring, it's because like people who may have stolen from Kohls are also friends who have stolen from Kohls, and they refer you that way?
Everybody seems to know somebody who knows somebody that's got some kind of a problem at some point. I get referrals from every manner of friend and person that you'd be surprised.
Because people do talk about that, like, hey, I got this coming up, but do you know anybody who's...
Yeah,
which is more of, I guess, like heard through the grapevine, because not a lot of people want to just go out and ask on Facebook, like, "Hey, I just got pulled over for a DWI or whatever," and can you recommend? I've never really said like, "Hey, can you recommend a good defense attorney?"
Yeah, no. If you're a surgeon, you're not going to want to, you're going to want to quietly get a referral for that. People don't like to advertise that kind of problem. Yeah, for sure.
So for you in the courtroom, I guess, how would you? So I know you personally, but I'm curious, what kind of personality would you say you have in the courtroom? Like, what would people say about you in the courtroom? Because obviously, like you said, it's the way you guys take care of business, but also, like, how would your clients or other people from the outside like describe you in the courtroom?
I'd like to think dogged, persistent, but calm. I am not a yeller. I'm not someone who gets angry in the courtroom, but I think, after 22 years, there's almost no legal issue that's going to arise or type of case or something. I'm not surprised in the courtroom very often anymore. And so I'd like to think after all these years, I kind of know what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, that's the way I see myself. And I think I'd like to think others would see me the same way. I don't like the style of practice where people are hold themselves out as, sort of bomb throwers. And I just don't really think that gets anything done for your clients. I think you need to maintain credibility with the judges, the court staff, the other lawyers. And, in the long term, I think that gets things done better than someone who's, practicing a scorched earth type of practice.
So being I guess there's two parts to this. Being in practice for that long, practicing law for that long anyway, you've obviously made friends, or you've become really close acquaintances to a lot of people in the court system too. So obviously they can't necessarily help you, but it's good to know that like there's a mutual respect on both sides. So that kind of plays in your favor. I don't know. Obviously that they follow the law, but
yeah, I think that's true. I think that's one misperception the general public has, and maybe it's based on movies and TV. We all in the defense bar, the prosecutors, the judges, the court staff, the people that work at the courthouse, we see each other 5 days a week, 365 days a year. And so we have personal relationships based on friendship and respect that go back decades. And I think people envision lawyers as just sort of constantly fighting with each other in the courtroom. And that has to happen at times, but for the most part, we set it aside right afterward. So, yeah.
Like, yeah, we're competing, I guess, and now we'll respect each other.
Exactly. Yeah.
What do you enjoy most about what you do?
I think that you can really help some people out and fix some problems in their lives. And I know we do. And I still, to this day, that's been the most surprising thing to me since coming over as a prosecutor is how much I really enjoy helping somebody out of a situation. Yeah, I mean, that's really what it boils down to, and to know that you're bringing value to them and you're really helping them out. I don't think that's ever going to get old for me. So yeah.
Right. It's like they made a bad decision and they're like, please, I just need a second chance. And you're allowed, like, able to give that to them.
Sure. Yeah. Because there's situations, as you well know, I mean, you can get your life ruined with some of this stuff. So,
especially very young.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what the law is like. Sometimes you get tried as an adult and you're not an adult. So it's like, okay, some of these kids could do something very bad. And it's like, they're trying me as I'm 18 and I'm 16 and now I'm in jail for 20 years. It's like, oh, that just...
Oh, it's tough. And everybody knows now that your brain isn't fully baked, so to speak, until you're in like your early 20s, really. And, not to say that people shouldn't be held accountable for their decisions, but you simply can't compare the 18-year-old version of yourself to the 38-year-old version of yourself. I mean, people do some dumb things when they're young. Everybody knows that. Even if you look at the statistics, people age out. I mean, there's very few people after their late 40s getting involved in any sort of criminality, really.
Really?
Yeah. They kind of age out of it. It's
interesting. Yeah. I was going to say, I'm just judging myself from like 20 in college to now. Like,
yeah. It's a huge contrast.
Right.
Different.
Like we would have been, if we were at spring break this weekend, it's like, we would have probably made a stupid decision. Mm-hmm. It's like, now it's like, should we not jump off of this ledge or should we? Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
probably not. It's like,
there's a bit of what's that old saying there? But for the grace of God, go I in this business for sure. Some of these things, I'm like, yeah.
Is there any particular? So not to go to the people who asked all the questions, but is there a particular case that like comes to mind that like just throughout your tenure, it doesn't matter on each side or one side or the other, it just kind of still sticks with you, whether it's good or bad or just a particular situation that you're like, wow, I wish that this would have happened, or I wish it didn't happen to this kind of person?
Oh,
too many.
I think my mind was going somewhere else with that. But I'm sorry. Could say the last part again? Because I thought you were going one way and then you went another.
Yeah, I'm just thinking. Probably the easiest way to ask it is, what is like your most memorable case?
Wow. There's a lot. I'll give, just a couple of examples.
Yeah.
I back in the day, back in Vermont as a prosecutor, feeling, really happy to, I remember this very difficult person. I prosecuted for 5 years in a county with maybe 50,000 people total. Mm-hmm. And so this particular person was just a well-known, I'm calling him a difficult guy. Okay. Sexually assaulted a child and then threatened the child, and putting him in prison was made me happy. Because even during the trial, he was trying to intimidate the child, trying to intimidate me, trying to intimidate everybody. He was a tough dude. I won't forget that guy. And I don't know why that one sticks out for me, because that describes a lot of people that I've prosecuted over the years. That one in particular sticks with me.
That was early on too, right? And
I was probably in my late 20s at the time. And then another murder case I prosecuted at that time, I don't know why that one sticks with me so much, because he's so inexplicable. A man and a woman, they're married, and wonderful marriage by all accounts. Kids loved them. And he just, there's really, I'm going to go to my grave never knowing what happened, but he just shot her. He shot her with a shotgun and then lit the house on fire. And I'll never understand that. That's just another one that sticks with me. Maybe those stick with me because I was all of like 27, 28 getting involved in the business prosecuting these cases. Those two leap out at me. So anyway, and it's funny because they're both from like 20 years ago at this point. Yeah.
Well, I was wondering if there was a connection from that, because like it was early, like you said, you've seen a bunch since then, but it was like those first ones kind of like formed your.
Maybe that's what it was, Aaron. Yeah, that could be it. I mean, I just recall being early on where I would hear the things people would say to me about what went on. I would just about fall on the floor, and now, mean, I could eat my Wheaties and listen to that story,
Yeah, I won't tell the story that happened last week, but we were both all together, or we were all together. I even told that story to Christian about a friend of ours was telling something that was going on here in Dallas, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I almost had to stop running. The story was like so sad and so bad. And Derk's like, unfortunately, I've heard this, an hour ago or like, yesterday. Like this happens so often.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you just, I don't know if you become immune to it. It's just more of like for your job, you have to be able to be even keel for it. Cause I would be way too emotional. Like, all right, I can't take this case. I can't do this.
Yeah. I respect that. I mean, I could see this isn't for everybody for sure. It's, but it's about the process for me. So, but yeah, anyway, those are two that leap to mind. I'll come up with like 10 more later and jump in.
Right. Please do. If you stop us at any point, if you're oh, this one you should know.
I should have leavened that up with a fun one or something. I don't know. Sorry to bring you down, guys.
Well, okay, so this could be fun. If you couldn't be a lawyer anymore, what would you be doing? I mean, you have to make money, so let's just assume you're not independently wealthy. What would you be doing?
What would I be doing? Good Lord, Can I run and mountain bike all day? And
well, if you get sponsored, I mean, you got to make a living.
Well, then no. Yeah. What would I be doing if I wasn't? Honestly, I think that I love government and politics and current events and history. And I could just I'd be so happy, I think, if I was like the high school history teacher, and then right after school, I put my whistle on, I became the track coach. And yeah, I could totally see any kind of teaching a government class, a history class, and coaching some kind of high school sport, like track and cross country. That'd be a blast. Maybe a second career.
Yeah.
Could be.
Because your kids are only a couple of years away from
I still have to pay for all this, but after that.
So, I think a history teacher probably doesn't make as much. So, are you? Well, I guess I don't know what the law is for here in Texas, but like since you already have a degree, obviously you have a master's at that point. You just have to take like another course, and you could be a history teacher pretty easily, I would assume.
I would think I could get switched over somehow. It's just
like a certification.
Yeah.
At that point,
that's cool. And you know one or two things about running, so you could probably coach some
I could
people.
fake my way through it. I'll get the Couch to 5K app or something.
Are you guys tracking your calories for this? What's going on? Oh, yeah. Coach, you just had us run 300-meter sprints for these 5Ks, and that's all we've done all week. I don't feel like I'm prepared here.
Some of the volume's not quite there, Coach. Yeah.
No, that's cool. I assumed that would probably be something around the route that you would go, but that's interesting.
Yeah.
History teacher.
Yeah, something like that. History, government, politics, whatever. Anything up there. And as long as you keep me out of the math classroom, I ought to be all right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to be in that.
Either? No.
That just doesn't sound very fun to me. No, teaching sounds great. I think teaching sounds fun, but going up there and be like, and plus there's like, you have kids now who are like in the school or the level of school where they teach you like, this is how you do multiplication now. And it's like, oh, this is not the same way I did multiplication or division. Maybe theirs is different, but I know that they're teaching kids like, all right, and I don't even know how to do it, but it's like, all right, to multiply these four numbers, you just leapfrog this one and you add this one and then you divide and that gives you the number. So they just do more steps than what they need to. So I just don't understand their new way of math. So I'm like, okay, let me. Plus, they always told us like, oh yeah, you won't be able to have this at your fingertips. So I'm like,
calculator.
There you go, no problem. I got a calculator literally right here, so I don't need to figure that out. Figuring out math in your head as you do it.
No.
So what is it? Well, actually, I guess there's two questions to this because they're this part of the question because we're recording this in March of 2020, and as most people know, there's a virus going around, and so that's kind of affecting some businesses. So my first question is how is or have you felt any effect from the virus and like the coronavirus or what is it, COVID-19 or whatever?
Yeah, that's the disease.
The disease, yeah. Mm-hmm. So has that affected your business at all?
The business, not yet, but it may very soon. The courts, as of Friday afternoon in Collin County, are revamping how things are going to be done going forward. They are not going to be conducting anything that's not a quote unquote non-essential event. And in my business, the only event that's going to be deemed essential right now is going to be a trial for someone who is in jail because they have no bond or can't make bond. So in other words, an incarcerated defendant who's waiting a trial, that would be considered an essential event, and that will take place. Any sort of a bond reduction hearing, or basically anything that's going to resolve a case for a person who is detained because they can't make bail. Otherwise, the courts are trying to keep as few people from coming up there as possible.
Right.
So I'm anticipating that could start to influence and trickle down into the new cases coming in. If people don't feel a particular urgency, or nothing is set, or nothing's happening, they may not want to come in. The other way it may affect it is that the Collin County Sheriff has really asked a lot of the local police agencies to really consider not making a custodial arrest in a lot of cases, and just considering issuing a citation to come to court instead. And so that may in turn, influence things as well. The up until now, the instinct has been just to do a custodial arrest for almost everything above a Class C, take them to the county jail, get bond set, let them bond out. I'll be curious to see how this coronavirus issue, for lack of a better term, if it has any lasting consequences for our business. Like, will we see going forward that becomes a permanent feature of the system, where less people are asked to come to court, less people are arrested as opposed to citations? I don't know yet, but but a long answer to a short question. Right now, those are the ways it's going to affect the business. I would think very soon. Yeah.
So you're saying this could influence the way that the system works as a whole? Like, it's kind of talking about, like, and I've seen this on Facebook, social media, where companies are telling people to work from home, and all of a sudden, that's actually working. So it's like, they're probably asking themselves, like, okay, do we actually need these buildings and these offices and all this stuff?
Right.
When people can actually do the same work, or even better from work. From home.
I agree. No, that's exactly what I'm saying. I think that 6 months, if this goes on for 6 months and everybody gets used to doing it this way, and then we go, well, wait, so why do we go back? Why do we have to go back to do it the other way? I mean, I don't know. I'm not in charge of these things, but it certainly crossed my mind that it may have lasting effects for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say, one of the most popular articles like on the internet right now is like how to make the best use, or like how to get yourself in the quote unquote zone to be productive at work, at home. Because there's just tons of articles out there, and people are like, distraction over here, and they don't know how to work from home. So it's like, blogs are just blowing up.
Can you have a mini basketball hoop, or no? Or does that help? Does that help? Does that help or no?
It does help. Yeah, you
catch you in the Zen zone.
Yeah. Well, it's like every time you mark something off of your list, you're able to shoot.
Oh, I see.
You can shoot.
Yeah,
you get a chance
the opportunity.
The opportunity to shoot.
I was talking to my brother yesterday, and he works for Goldman Sachs in Manhattan.
Yeah,
and he said that they divided the whole company into 2 pods, and it's basically 50% of the people go this week, and the other 50% work from home. And then they interchange on every other week.
Interesting.
So they're doing the social distancing by just kind of halving the whole building, and having employees, go to the office, and the other half work from home. So he was asking me about these desks because he wants to get one for his house.
I like this. Yeah, it can stand up. But we're at our business, we're set up to where we have a contingency plan we've developed. We haven't triggered it yet, but we're set up to start doing. There's 13 people in that work there, and we're set up to do work from home. We may start doing phone consultations for new potential clients and existing clients. So we haven't pulled the trigger on that yet, but depending on, who knows what's going to happen next month or so in America. I don't know.
Hopefully, well, everybody keeps saying like 2 weeks because this is like whenever's going on, so they kind of address it then, but we'll see. So hopefully when people are listening to this, they're like, let me skip forward on the podcast. I'm done hearing about the coronavirus because it was a nothing. Let's hope that's
Yes, let's hope. Yeah.
So pending this doesn't last another 6 months, what's on the horizon for the law firm for 2020?
For 2020, well, we may be moving into larger digs at some point, which we need. We keep growing and growing. I don't know if that'll be 2020 or 2021. But we're moving into larger digs, and Otherwise, I think we're pretty happy with the size and growth of the firm right now. I don't think we're looking to expand any lawyers right now or any additional staff. So yeah, apart from the move, I guess just kind of keep doing what we're doing. Yeah.
Nice. And currently, you started out with just you and your partner. Do you guys have any other partners now, or
we do? Jeremy and I started it. Then another partner is Bo Calabas, and the other partner is Kyle Terry. And so there's 4 of us at the office that are partners.
How does that work?
Yeah, I was gonna say how does one become partner?
It's kind of like you sort of get down and kneel, and you put a sword on either side of you.
Please, oh god, I want to become a partner now.
Yes, and then you're stuck forever. It's kind of like the mafia. So
okay,
yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah, no, we just after a number of years, we just decide they're partners, and that's that.
What's the benefit of becoming a partner? Like your name goes. Yeah,
exactly.
Okay, so it's like prestige, basically.
Well, sure.
Okay.
Within the organization, I suppose, and some people, for some clients, I suppose that's probably an important thing. Right. Now that I'm old, I've noticed people ask me now, and they didn't used to ask me this 15 years ago. They will now ask me will you personally represent me, or are you going to give the file to a younger guy?
Yeah.
So
that's very true. It's like, hey, I saw online you have 22 years of experience. This guy, it looks like he just joined your firm. Am I getting that guy, or am I getting you? Which, I mean, that's valid question.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said.
So clearly that sort of thing crosses people's mind. So I think being a partner in the firm is helpful in that respect. So
doing some research before we jump into some different questions. What is, and I know you've been like part of the super lawyer, like they vote a certain percentage of people, which is very small. Like what do they say? Less than 5% of people become a super lawyer. And you've been that since 2014 through 2019 at this point.
Yep.
What is that? And why how do you become one, or what is it?
It's a peer review system, and somebody's got to, there's a certain number. I get the questionnaire every year, and it asks for names and why and what style of practice and what practice they're involved in. And so there's got to be a preponderance of your peers that think it's worthwhile to vote for you. That's pretty much it.
Okay.
And then there isn't, and that's, apart from that, it's the distinction of saying that, but there's nothing like, you're not in a unique, it's no obligations, or you're not like, it doesn't add anything like board certification.
Okay.
I'm board certified. That adds obligations going forward to my life, like additional continuing education and so forth. But super lawyer doesn't do that. It's just a distinction based on peer voting.
Okay. So so some lawyers don't have to be board certified and some do?
Yeah, you don't have to be at all.
Okay.
It's just in 2011, I made the decision to sit for the exam, and the exam is like it's like another bar exam.
Oh, wow.
But it's just in your area. Like the bar exam covers property and contracts, and I took the criminal law exam in 2011. So
once you pass once, you're good.
Or you're good.
Plus continuing education.
Continuing education, and you have to demonstrate that you're actually still a lawyer, and within that field. So you've got to demonstrate that you have a certain number of hearings and trials and so forth like that. Yeah, and pay the fee.
Yeah. Somebody's always got to get this there. By the way, we're going to pay annually for this.
Forever. Yeah.
And then the last thing I saw too, I did not realize this because I didn't see. I saw it through the chamber, but I didn't know you guys were part of the McKinney Chamber. You are part of the McKinney Chamber, but then you guys also got voted best law firm in McKinney too.
Yeah, I saw that. And it's like I get informed of these things. You've met Heidi, she keeps me up on these things. So yeah, no, we were so honored for that because McKinney is our home. So
right,
yeah, me and Jeremy both lived there, and the kids go to school, and so anyway, we're thrilled that people thought enough of us to vote for us. So
yeah, that's very cool. Yeah. And it's it has to come from the public, so the people who are voting are like, hey, this guy helped me out. I gotta vote for him. So
yes, good because it's anonymous, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't know what it's like for you guys. Like you guys probably get a lot of good Google reviews.
Mm-hmm.
But people are less inclined, you might imagine, they could be thrilled with you, but
getting a review
but the whole point is to get the case dismissed and expunged. They don't really want to put their name out there to say something. So some people don't mind though.
Yeah, like, well, he got me out of a ticket. It's like, oh, thanks for getting me out of this ticket. It's like, well, I was on trial for 6 months, and this guy saved my life.
Right.
It's like, well, okay, now the first thing comes up when we Google your name is that you were contacting a defense attorney that you try to get this off your record.
Because if I get a 6-month trial, I will become a history teacher. 3 weeks is the longest I've ever been in.
Really?
If I have a 6-month trial, I'm yeah.
So that's like
that's
Supreme
gonna be the
Court
swan
stuff,
song.
or even not even that.
Well, yeah, no, that's yeah. The longest trial I was ever in was a 3-week federal drug conspiracy, and there were 9 co-defendants on trial at once, and
that's every day meeting in court.
8 to 6 every day, and so.
Oh gosh. Okay, so now I can see. I thought it was just like
hundreds of exhibits and dozens of witnesses, and
wow,
keep me on my toes, because I have to pay attention, sitting still, paying attention,
It's
like an 8-year-old again.
Yeah, but for 3 weeks every day.
Yeah.
Wow, man. I don't know if you had any other questions specific to the law firm. I want to ask some more. We're gonna get you out of the light now. This is just more some fun stuff that I'm just curious.
All right.
So we need to know. So and you can let us know. We'll edit this part out if you're not able to answer these questions.
Okay.
I'm just playing.
He has 3 weeks of.
The statutes of limitations has run on most of my.
So we asked this question, and it's interesting because everybody has it's kind of a hard question, but everybody has different answers, and they're always pretty. I don't know. They're very each spectrum. I guess there's a wide range of spectrum. So, all right. Let me just read it verbatim here. What purchase of $100 or less has most positively impacted your life in the last 6 months or recent memory? It doesn't have to be related to the business.
What purchase of something less than $100 has made the most impact in my life?
Mm-hmm. This is usually the response, so don't worry, we can play Jeopardy. Silence, yeah.
Huh. So my wife bought this, man, we went to what's that place called? The chicken.
Kohls. Oh, no.
With the chicken?
Babes?
No. Chick-fil-A.
It's newer. It's
Lane's?
No, it's like above that. Anyway, it's just it's nothing but chicken and waffles at this place. It's like the only thing you can get there. It's on the tollway in Frankfurt.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Whistlebridges?
Whistlebridges.
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
They were serving this IPA called Lone Star Rose.
Okay.
And I had one, and I said, "Oh wow, this is great. This is delicious, honey. When if you see this out, will you get one?" And so she bought one of these Lone Star Rose 6-packs for me, and I think it probably was close to $100. And it was life altering. I will never be satisfied with a different kind of beer now. That was so wonderful. Lone Star Rose. They owe
you some endorsement.
I'm not a paid endorser. It's good stuff. I am joking because I cannot think of a darn thing. The new faucet we got for the kitchen, but that was a whole lot more than $100. But we're not leaking in the kitchen anymore.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Is it leaking inside of there now?
Oh, it was brutal. Yeah, I'm sorry, because shoes. Running shoes are not exactly less than $100 anymore. That would be my go-to.
I was gonna say running warehouse is even then it's still gonna be like $100.
Right. So, boy, I fell flat on that one. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. It's okay. Well, now we know that a good IPA.
Oh, good IPAs. Yeah.
I do love Whistlebridges though. It's just as a side note.
Did you go? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good.
There's one up in the shops. Isn't there one in the shops at Legacy too? I think there is.
I don't know.
Or it's somewhere.
It's a Willowbend.
Oh, Willowbend. That's it.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, Christian, you'd love it. They get the jalapeno maple syrup if you want. They got all kinds of sauces.
Oh, I didn't have that.
No. Yeah, I got
jalapeno
maple syrup. They bring out a bunch of sauces. Yeah.
Whistlebridges does need a
typing that up.
Yeah.
About to hit that up.
It was weird drinking beer with waffles.
All right. Well, we're going to give you some time. Maybe you come back to that one because it's a tough question for a reason.
All right.
So that's the reason why I didn't prepare you.
Can I look at my bank statement?
Yeah. Pull it up here. It's like, well, I just paid for my kids' college tuition.
Not yet, thankfully, but hopefully there'll be some money there. Let me see.
Yeah. Stock market.
It's bad timing, right?
Not a good time to be looking at the bank account. Yeah. All right. So I guess in the last 5 years, what's a new belief, behavior, or habit that's improved your life? These are meant to be tough questions. So.
I don't think I've changed my beliefs at all in the last 5 years. But you know what is a new behavior in the last 5 years that I feel at times when I'm incorporating a property has been very helpful is the mountain biking.
Really?
Nothing fancy, but I mean, I feel like that's just a totally different aerobic power system, and it's different. It just for anybody watching this, I'm a runner. I met Aaron through running, so this is kind of like, so it has really, I think, enhanced. At times, it goes months without doing it, but when I'm doing that regularly, I feel like it really enhances the running. So that's probably about it. And it's
is it more fun for you?
I will always be a runner. That is my love. That is my first thing. But this is a nice, ancillary thing to supplement the running. I'll never be a mountain bike guy, a gear guy, tools and grease and that stuff. But I really do enjoy it, and it works a whole different system. But I'll tell you what, if you're, I don't know who else you have on the show or whatever, but I make a joke that like when you're in your late 40s, like a decade can go by and absolutely nothing changes in your life. So in the last 5 years, I mean, I'm sitting in the same spot on the couch. So like, I mean, I don't have anything new behavior or belief, I got a bike, I'm serious.
I want to get him
no, there's, well, you need to get it. Yeah, you should.
I know.
Yeah. We've been talking about that a while.
I know. Yeah. Well, I was actually talking to one of our project manager here, Daniel. He was saying that like he went to Richardson Bike Mart and they're just like, hey, look, there's a bunch of people buying bikes right now, and then they don't do anything with them, and they just leave them in their house, and they put them on Facebook Marketplace, and they sell them for $200 or $300 when they're $800, $1,000 bikes because they're like, I want to get a mountain bike, and then they're like, oh, this is work, so they don't do anything. So he's been wanting to get a bike for a while, and he told me about that last week, and I was like, this may be a good place to go check it out.
That's where I got mine.
Facebook Marketplace?
Yeah, they were, or no, was that?
Richardson.
Oh, Richardson, yeah. They treat you so well up there, and yeah. No, absolutely.
And they have one.
They have one in McKinney now. Yeah. Probably just a couple miles from my house. So yeah.
So you should get a mountain bike too. We have a team mountain bike ride.
I don't think there's a lot of mountains around here.
No.
There's a lot of trails though.
North Shore Trail's great. Irwin's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Irwin's up in McKinney, and North Shore's like Grapevine, or where's that at?
It's it's basically on the north side of Grapevine Lake.
And there's you can do 20 miles there.
Easy. You could probably do a marathon there. If you were running the full thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, as we're talking, I'm sorry, did I interrupt you? I was just trying to sit here and think, well, behavior, belief changes. And I'm like, no, there really isn't, man. I'm sorry to let you down on these questions. I mean, literally like every day after dinner, I turn on the light in the hallway and then, like, this is my routine. I eat at Whole Foods for lunch every day and, nothing changes. So.
Well, how did you get started with running? I guess that's
So I ran when I was a young person, and
define young person, like high school.
Yeah, I mean, I was a high school cross country runner, and then just kind of got away from it for years, and then I probably didn't get back into racing till I was in my mid 30s, and I think it was just, I mean, guys know how it is. You go, the college. Jobs, the wife, the kids, the babies, the mortgage, and then next thing you know, you're 35 and boy, I'm not quite as quick as I used to be. And I'm really, would like to kind of get back into something. I think that was part one. Part two is we lived for 10 years in Vermont before we moved here. And the lifestyle there kept me moving. I mean, it was hiking and skiing and cross country skiing and snowshoeing in the winter. And I just felt like I was constantly active. And then 3 years after moving here, it was like, I didn't have any of that stuff. I mean, I was just like kind of looking for something to do, really, to kind of get moving again. So
was there a particular, I guess, just going a little bit deeper, was there a particular moment that you were like, all right, I saw this running club, because I know you were part of Luke's. Was that like which is a local running company? Well, kind of ish, still kind of around the area. Like, did you just see them one day and you're like, oh, let me look them up and let me go join them? Or do you just like, all right, I need to do something, so I'm going to go buy some shoes and go out by myself?
Yeah, it was the latter. I just started running by myself, and then I started running with these guys, the Trails of Frisco, over in Frisco. I don't know if you know any of those guys, and then kind of started hanging around Luke's like 2010, 2011. So
okay,
yeah, no, it started as, well, let's just go kind of start moving the body again. And then, I'm always going to need something to kind of like compete. And so very quickly, I just wanted to race. And that's really what keeps, I don't know about you, but that really is what keeps me in it.
Yeah. Otherwise, well, Derk is very modest, but he's a very quick runner. But I was gonna say
for an old guy.
Huh?
For an old guy.
Oh gosh. Well, let's put asterisks next to that here. But no, I think that's like, I mean, if we just had to go out and we're like, oh, let's run this amount of miles per week just for fun. Like some people are like, oh, you just go out and run for fun. It's like, yeah, to a certain extent, yes, but like there's a purpose behind it to do something.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's all just training for something. There's some people at the Plano Running Club that we cannot convince to race, though, which I don't understand. But,
yes, that are also very quick.
Also very quick. Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, oh no, I think I'll just run my 5 miles and just go back home. I'm like, but you're kind of fat. Like you should see what you should see where you're.
We're
like
not talking about you. Right?
Yeah. We're talking about those other people.
I keep looking at that thing.
This is your camera.
That's my camera.
Yeah, this is your camera. This is our camera. Dang. So Christian mainly goes to the gym now too. So I'm curious, kind of to keep on.
He's
that
looking like your bodyguard over there. I can kind of
yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah, 22s. Is that the same thing for you too? Like you want to compete, or is your goal for like lifting? And I still lift, but not to the extent like you do. But are you trying to think of like I'm trying to lose a certain amount of weight, or I'm trying to gain a certain amount of muscle, and that's what keeps you motivated?
I think for right now, yeah. But I do feel that a lot of people fall into that. Oh, you need to compete or do something with it,
right,
you know? Because like you get to a certain point, and you're like, oh yeah, I have this great body, and what do I do with it now? You know? So I think to some extent, yeah. I think down the road, I could see myself, I don't know, like CrossFit games or doing something like that. I don't think TV, never like the stage stuff. I don't think I'll ever do that. But because I mean, just like you, like I'm highly competitive, so I want to, be able to do that, improve myself, I guess.
Do those Spartan type things appeal to you at all, with the fire and the mud and the rocks?
Kinda.
Yeah. Carrying things, old
Tough Mudder
guy that does that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I've thought about doing it. Have you ever done a Tough Mudder?
I've never done anything like that.
I'm always afraid. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go do this stupid thing, and I'm gonna hurt myself to actually do something that I like. So I'm like always afraid of that. But I'm like, I think it would be cool to do something like that. Mm-hmm. But I'm just like, oh yeah, I can be me jumping over this wall here, and it's like break an ankle, and it's like now I run like I don't know, I can't say a 20-minute mile. Let's just go extreme. It's like basically walking because my ankle is now, not.
Oh, yeah, no, that would be bad.
Devastating at the point. It's like, yay, we all did it. But I mean, I kind of want to do it just to see if it's fun. But I think it's, I don't know, cool. You can like do it as a team or whatever, and kind of competitive that way. Which is
for those of you that don't know Aaron, he can probably run 4 miles in 20 minutes. So he's the one. He's calling me modest. He's the one modest over there. Yeah.
That's cool. Bike. All right. Yes. So right now it's raining outside. If you guys can't tell from the cameras, so we need to get the trails to dry up a little bit before we can actually take a bike out there. And I've bought a few things for a baby now that could equal a very nice fountain bike. So I need to save up for that.
This is true. Yeah, you may have missed your window there. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, more so, I just need to store it at your house because Brianna told me like, where are you going to store this bike?
Oh yeah, there's plenty of room in my garage.
There we go.
Yeah, no, you seriously could, but I mean, I guess it'd be hard to get to. You wouldn't be able to. Like,
hey,
give me a key or something. Yeah.
All right, you guys heard it here. I'm going to park it in his house. All right, so I don't know. This is the answer, or the question is, I won't preface it all. Let's just say, what's something that you think that you've failed at? Again, doesn't have to be law, doesn't have to be anything. What's something?
What do I fail at? Maybe I've just, let me think, maybe I've just abandoned everything too quickly. I wasn't any good. Let me see. What do I fail at?
Another way to ask it is like what you've learned the most from because you didn't succeed right away too. So
I was a terrible soldier. I hated that. I guess maybe if there's a failure
soldier.
There. Yeah, did you know I served in the uniform?
I did, but these guys
I was horrible. I was terrible. I'm trying to think. That wasn't really a failure. I mean, you don't really have to do much except show up and do what you're told. What did I fail at? Aaron, these are hard. I don't know. Maybe what did I fail at?
It is a hard question.
And you promised like these are going to be fun questions.
I can't cook.
We'll get to some more fun ones. It's supposed to be thought provoking.
That's a good one.
Huh?
I can't cook on a lighter note. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be doing gloom. I wasn't.
I feel like you cooked for us.
Yeah, it's fine. That's true. I did.
Yes.
I cooked
and then I ruined your parents. Like, you can show this to your parents. I ruined your parents' pan. I still need to pay you for that.
You did?
Remember, I put oil on that non-stick pan. Brianna was up at
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
She was up at like 3 o'clock in the morning trying to clean that pan.
Oh my God, that's funny. Yeah, I think they've forgiven and forgotten the pan
resurfacing.
All right, well,
my dad's probably never seen that.
Interesting. Well, I was gonna say I think that's a lie because I think you're probably a good cook.
No, anyway, I don't know. I feeling. Yeah, I probably wasn't the best at that. I just didn't enjoy it. So I got as soon as my enlistment expired, I got out. I was 23.
It was 4 years, right?
I'm out of here.
4 years.
Well, you've got to do 6 in the Army Reserve. About a year was spent of that on active duty, but then so I was like almost 17 or almost 18 to almost 24.
And you were like, you're not drafted. Obviously, there hasn't been a draft, so you elected to go.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
What made you do that?
Oh man, just I don't know.
You wanted to get away from your parents?
I was a young no, it wasn't like that. You know, I was a young man. I wanted to go and lots of testosterone. Or I wanted to jump over walls and shoot the M16 and throw grenades, and I got to do all that. So,
okay, that's what I was wondering. Okay, so that doesn't sound like a failure.
That was about the extent of my thought process there. You know,
it's like, wait, I got to wake up early and listen to some guy yell at me, but later I get to shoot an M16. So
yeah,
this is interesting.
Anyway,
all right, so. Real question. We always say, we ask, what's your current Netflix binge? But there's other things out there. So what's your current binge right now? Because you'd be Amazon, something else.
So yeah, it just finished, and it is one of the best shows I've ever seen in my life. And I'm so sad that it's over. And I even alluded to it this morning on the run. Mr. Robot. I just finished watching all of Mr. Robot, and I thought that was just one of the best shows I've ever seen in terms of the fullness of the characters and the complexity of the plot and the number of characters and the writing, everything. It was brilliant. Go do yourself a favor, all of you, and watch Mr. Robot. Yeah.
Where did you watch it on?
I've been watching it on I watched it when it first came out, and then got back into it and watched it on Amazon.
Yeah,
how many seasons?
I started watching
4.
it and then I stopped. But I remember being really good.
It's so good. That some of those characters, just that Elliot Alderson character, man, that's going to stick with me forever.
So give us an idea of the premise here. What's the whole point of this show?
The point of the show, at least what the viewer, I'm not going to give away how this ends, but what the viewer's understanding of the situation in season 1 is that it's set in New York City, and a guy by the name of Elliot Alderson is a huge brain, brilliant guy who can hack any system. And he is basically a vigilante who's determined to bring down the world financial system and has a real hatred of something called E-Core, which to me represents even the logo looks like Bank of America. And he does. And he crashes the world economy and causes basically a depression. And that's enough to get you started. Yeah.
I think the show may become more popular as we're talking about this and when we're recording this.
It was good stuff.
Gosh. Okay. That sounds really good.
So that's that.
And the financial industry is already super complex anyway. So it's like adding that whole, and I guess the part of it is it's technically possible, I guess, if somebody really.
I suppose it would be,
hopefully
there's a lot of things you have to kind of, like any show, you have to say that'd be a tall order. But the guy who plays Elliot went on to, he's really the only person I think that came out of that show with any degree of fame. He went to play,
the singer.
Freddie Mercury.
Yeah, Freddie Mercury.
In Queen. Remy Malek. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he was in Mr. Robot. Obviously before. Interesting.
So I'm sorry. That's the one question I could actually answer. I bet I'm going to drive home and think I'm going to come back and if I can think of part 2.
Send us some audio
some big
files.
obvious failure,
know. No. That's I guess whenever I said fun, it's more of a thought provoking. The Netflix question, that's a good question. It's an easy question, I guess.
Are there any more hard ones? Are there any more hard questions?
I was skipping over some hard ones because I was like, no, I don't think there was anyway. We did ask this, which was also a good one. No, we asked that because I feel like every question you know about your business is like you do that every single day, so without a doubt. I guess my only question is not really like a fun question, but it's kind of interesting for your business. Is like, how has the landscape in McKinney changed from when you started the business 10 years ago? Because you guys were in McKinney, and McKinney is like one of the fastest growing areas in the country. So how does that affect your business at this point?
I mean, I think it has been a part of the reason, and maybe I should have thought of this earlier when you asked me that directly. I think it's part of the reason that the business continues to grow. I mean, there's, in 2004 there were about 400,000 people in the county. There's almost 1 million now.
Wow.
And so I think that's the case. And I think by the standards of Collin County, where there are people moving in from all over all the time. I mean, we're almost we've been around for a while, and and so I think we've kind of established ourselves there. But I don't not necessarily that's your last question, but I did want to end on a fun note about a case,
Please.
because
Please.
I gave you the doom and gloom earlier.
Yeah.
But I don't want to interrupt the flow of things if you're going on that. So because I'm a defense lawyer, I want to end on a defense note, and you guys were asking about some cases. And the only reason that this is a fun one is because nobody got hurt. Okay. I want to be clear.
Nobody got hurt.
Nobody got hurt. Okay. But sometimes people will ask me for stories and things like this. And I've represented a guy who will remain nameless, obviously. Big brain, slightly strange. He drove his car right through the parking lot of a Texaco and clipped the tanks, didn't cause a fire or anything like that, and then plowed straight into the Texaco. He's just there in the potato chip aisle in his car, and gets out of the car and has a conversation with the stunned clerk, who calls the police, who come down, and they talk to this gentleman and do some field sobriety tests on him and take him into custody and arrest him for DWI. And we elect to proceed to jury trial. And leading up to this trial, I had every DA and I was talking to making fun of me. I had the bailiff making fun of me. And why are you bothering to try this case? I mean, look what he did. And jury found him not guilty. So that's one of those fun things that you can't win if you don't try, kind of thing. So yeah.
How is he?
How did I defend the case is your question? I'm assuming, I defended it on the grounds that there was not a lot of evidence that he was intoxicated, that he was just a really weird dude. And I stand by that to this day. And the jury agreed. So
because he was weird and went up, was he on the stand?
I think no. There's very few reasons to put a client on the stand ever. But yeah, and I think the jury was, I think they were scratching their heads. What the heck was that? But I don't think they were definitely clearly not persuaded that intoxication was the problem. There were some other problems, but intoxication may not have been one of them.
So because they were going and trying him for intoxication, nothing else happened to him because
it was a driving while intoxicated case. Yeah. Now he may have somebody may want their bricks repaired. I don't know, but
so he's going to do something there.
But the criminal problem worked itself out. So anyway, I don't know. I felt like after the doom and gloom, I wanted to tell you something there. Now I wouldn't have shared that story had some poor person been shopping for potato chips. It'd be a different story. So
my gosh, I just can't believe he's just a weird guy.
I've got a kettle full of stories like that for you, Aaron, someday.
So and I was going to ask you, and I was going to ask Christian too, just before we wrap up, if there was anything specific that you should be sharing with us. We didn't ask because, I think it can go into a rabbit hole here in the criminal defense. But is there anything you want to know? This is your chance to ask.
Tell me about your brother-in-law or something.
Yeah, very complex.
It was a Thursday. Does that matter?
No, I don't think I have anything.
Okay. Awesome. Anything, Derk? You got anything that we need to know? What do these people need to know?
Or just a tough question for Aaron.
I'll
allow that.
There's no tough.
You don't hide your Garmin and your Strava from anybody. So no, I know all. You
oh, that's a poke for one of our running friends. So people know because it's completely. They're gonna question or want to know now as they're listening. We're all very competitive. You admitted to being competitive. Well, in the running community, obviously people are competitive too. One particular guy is so competitive that he will see everybody else's Garmin and Strava, but he will not share with anybody else because he wants to see his competition but not for them to see him.
Right.
So much so that Derk did run 12. But Derk, he ran 12 this morning too. And this particular runner, which we'll go nameless, we'll share it with him.
We're still your friend, though.
Yeah, we are still your friend. I was like, I'm gonna go run another mile, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna run. So he goes and runs with me. Right. And then he's like, how much are you gonna run? And I said, I'm gonna run 12. And he's like, okay, well, Derk did that, so we gotta at least run 12. And I was like, really? Okay. And then as we were finishing up, like another girl we were on with named Emily, she was like, yeah, I just knocked out 14. I don't know why. And Derk was like, well, Derk. This guy happened to say, I was like, well, I guess you beat us today. Like, it was like a competition between all of us. Like, okay, well, you win today.
I was about to say, like, oh, well, I have to go run some more miles. Like,
well, 2 weeks ago, that did happen. We all ran a distance, and we met up at the store, and then we stopped and ate bagels, and we're about to head out. And then he went and ran like 6 more so that he could run 3 or 4 more miles than us. So,
he'll do it.
Yeah,
with shoes on at work or whatever. Yeah, whatever needs to be done.
Yeah, whatever needs to be done. Good guy. Very good guy. Yeah, he's a good friend. But yeah, it's it's a different level of competitiveness.
Yeah.
So anyway, dang, that's it. I think that this was very entertaining in the sense that I got some cool things answered, and now I know what to ask you after this as well, like my criminal questions.
Well, thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
Nobody ever asked me questions.
Nobody asked you questions?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Nothing like that anyway. Yeah. So now you have these tough questions. We want a text review later.
Text review?
Yeah. You got to give us a text. Like your answers in text for the ones that you didn't answer.
Okay. I'll think about my failures on my home. Because I need more gloom and doom in my life today with this coronavirus thing.
Hey, like I said, it could be something that you learned.
Right.
Doesn't have to be that.
All right.
Awesome. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening to this, and a huge shout out to Derk for coming back on, or coming on the episode rather. And if you guys are listening for the first time, please make sure that you go over to subscribe so that you don't miss out on any episode. We're going to be doing more of these video casts, so you'll see the video. For some of you who are listening to it on audio, we will be continuing to roll these out. So make sure that you hit subscribe, or if you're over on YouTube, make sure that you hit the subscribe button as well and ring that bell so you get notified every time we put out content. And if you've been listening for a while, whether you are just been listening 3 months or you've been listening for 2 years, if you could go over to Apple Podcasts and leave us an honest rating and review, that is how we grow the podcast. And it also allows us to figure out how we should be catering this content and how we should be doing more things, which is why we're doing this now is more of you guys have been listening to interviews with our guests and like the ones with the videos. So that's why we're doing this. We want to listen to you. So all right, that's all we have for this week. We'll talk to you guys next time.
The Marketing Natives Podcast is a production of BitBranding.